I am so incredibly excited to let you guys know about Growth Now Movement Live coming to Reading, Pennsylvania, May 30th to June 1st. That's going to feature some of my top guests, top performers, people who are willing to share their time, their information, and their knowledge with you to help you level up in all areas of your life. Go over to gnmlive.com and get your tickets today because it will sell out, guys. It is going to be an epic day of growing together and really helping each other reach our goals. I cannot wait to see you there. gnmlive.com to grab your tickets today. What is the secret to unlocking your full potential? What makes your idols any different than you? How do you become the person you've always wanted to be in life? This is where you get all of your questions answered. My name is Justin Shank, and I sit down with some of the most epic individuals who are changing the world with their actions in business and in life. We discuss how they did it, why they pushed themselves, and more importantly, how they were able to focus on continuous growth to achieve their dreams. Welcome to the Growth Now Movement. This week, I sit down with Sarah Centrella.
Beautiful thing about hitting rock bottom is that you don't give a fuck anymore, right? Mm-hmm. Like it is the first time, is the most freeing thing, honestly, because like you don't care about your pride, you don't care about your ego, you are literally trying to survive. And that for me was huge. I think that allowed me to be able to recreate my life and to start dreaming again.
Sarah is the #1 best-selling author of Hustle, Believe, Receive. She's the premier vision board expert and manifesting gangsta. She's a master life coach to professional athletes in the NBA and NFL. And she's also a world-renowned speaker teaching the world how to manifest their dreams. I got introduced to Sarah when I said to someone, I need to interview more badass women. Who should I interview? And her name was the first name that popped up. And when you guys listen to this episode, you'll find out why. She's absolutely incredible. She's done amazing things. She's changed her life. She's changed the lives of many. And she's also an all-around great person, which if you guys know me, that's extremely important to me. I know that you guys are going to absolutely love this episode. You're going to love Sarah. So make sure you go follow her on Instagram and let her know that you loved this episode. I'd also love it if you guys took a minute to click that subscribe button if you haven't already, wherever you're listening, and come along with us on this journey and this Growth Now movement. Now, without further ado, I give to you Sarah Centrella. Sarah, welcome to the Growth Now movement.
Thank you. I'm super, super excited to be on and to be chatting with you today, Justin. Thanks so much for having me.
Absolutely. I literally said to somebody, I'm like, I need more badass women on my show. And you were the person that somebody brought up. And I looked into your story. I was like, yep, this is exactly what I was talking about. And the funny thing is, I had Ed Milet on my show, and he introduced you the same exact way, where he's like, I need more badass women. And you were the person that came up. So congratulations on being a badass woman.
I was just going to say, so does that officially make me a badass woman? Because I will wear that badge, man. I'm going to make a crown of that shit. Put it right here.
100%. So every time you now get introduced before you speak anywhere, that's the first thing they say.
I'm a badass.
The badass woman on the planet. The #1.
It.
But yeah, so, when I looked into your story and everything that you're about, I was like, this is what the world needs. This is what people need to listen to. And it's the greatest example of creating your own life, creating your own journey.
Yeah.
And we use the term manifesting what it is you want. So why don't you take 2-3 minutes, introduce yourself to my audience and who and what you're all about right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And kind of everything that we're going to talk about today has to have a little bit of background, which is my story. And I'm sure, this is my first time meeting your listeners. So it just kind of frames everything that I've done. And it started for me about 10 years ago now. So it was 2008, and it started with a rock bottom moment, as I think a lot of major transformations sometimes do. For me, it was an overnight, complete falling out of my life, if you will. At the time, I had been married to my high school sweetheart. We were together for 16 years, married for 8, 3 kids, the whole bit. And literally found out that he'd been having an affair over a text message from his mistress. And it changed my life in a split second. I mean, split second. He was in the shower when I got the text message. I literally went in, turned the water off, said, get the fuck out of the house and don't ever come back. And that was the end of my life as I knew it. Just bomb drop. And, and of course, whenever you hit rock bottom, it's not just one thing, right? It's a multitude of things. And that was certainly, the case for me. We had already gone through like a rough year. It was the recession. So I was, stay-at-home mom, and my twins were just a year. So kind of going through that, 2 babies and a 5-year-old and all of that. And we had lost our house the year before and gone through bankruptcy. So it was just the perfect shitstorm. Yeah. Like everything imploded. When he left, I had nothing. I literally was one of those women who I never thought I would be, who woke up and was like, oh my God, the checking account's not in my name. Like, it's just one of those things that we just did and changed and never thought about. And I think I probably changed it. And, it was just, and I would go down the list and everything was like that. The car wasn't in my name. I had no income. I had no access to the bank account without, just all of this stuff. And it was not only like dealing with the romantic side of that, which I didn't even have time to process. It was more like, okay, how do you survive now? Like, what do I do tomorrow? How do I feed the kids? How do I get a job? All of that. It was even almost deeper, especially that next 6 months trying to get on my feet, of just like, who am I? You know what I mean? Because you have your life planned out. You know what's coming. Like you're going to grow old with this person. The next 60 years are going to look like. Worked real hard. You plan it out. And so I think that was probably one of the most dramatic things for me, is like, oh my God, I don't know what tomorrow is going to be. Mm-hmm. And if I don't know what tomorrow is going to be, what's next year and the next 5 years? So thank God I kind of, I don't even think it was me. It was, in fact, I know it wasn't. It was whatever force you want to call it, whatever name you want to put on it, really gave me the sense to understand that instead of being completely terrified of the thought that I didn't control everything, that I could kind of invent it, right? I could create it. And I didn't know anything about self-help, but I thought, shit, I'm going to hang on to that ray of hope and figure it out.
Yeah. So where did that come from? Like, first of all, I want to acknowledge you for going in when he's taking a shower and going, get the fuck out. And that was the end of it. Like that in that moment shows power. Whether you thought of it I'm sure at that moment you didn't think of it that way.
Not at all.
Most people would be like, oh, well, how do I save this marriage?
Yeah,
because that's what I'm supposed to do. Like, so I want to acknowledge that first, because that's super empowering to a lot of people who go through that stuff and don't make the decision because they're afraid of what's next, right?
And I do just want to say that at that time, at that moment in my life, I didn't know anyone who'd been divorced. I didn't know any single moms. I didn't know anyone who'd been through anything remotely similar to what I was going through. And I literally thought that's what you did. I mean, I don't even think I thought about it. It was just an instant gut, complete decision reaction, total gut reaction. And I'm so glad. Like, I thank the universe. I thank the angels. I don't know what it was, but I am so glad, because had I not had that reaction, I fully think that I would probably be in a miserable life. And so I am so grateful. And I just want to tell the women who are out there who don't think that you can leave a bad or whatever kind of relationship that you're not happy in. You absolutely can. You can. And I'm grateful every day, because what I've built after that is everything I ever dreamed, way beyond actually anything I ever dreamed, that my life would look like when I was a little girl dreaming of who I was going to be.
Yeah. That, and I love that. And so, you talk about having a gut reaction and just following that. How important has that been every single step of the way since then?
Oh my God, it's everything. And here's the thing. We all are designed with our own life coach, our own therapist. Like, it's called your freaking gut, your intuition. And I'm always telling people, like, if you just listen to your gut instead of arguing with it all the time, and being like, no, those red flags, no, they're fine, and here's why, and blah, blah, blah. We all do that. Like, our gut will be like, listen, don't go that way. And we'll come up with 9,000 reasons why it's wrong. And then we'll go our own way and we'll get burned. And then and I'm just like, so since that day, honestly, and every day since, that is what I pay attention to first, instantly. No matter what decision I'm making, I go literally off of what my gut tells me to do. And not all the time is that what I want to do at all.
Yeah.
But now, like anything else, when you start to see results from doing a certain thing, right, and realize, oh, that played out for me, that had my best interest at heart, whatever. And so now I follow it completely, really most of the time without even questioning it, even if it's what I absolutely don't want to do, because I know it has my back.
I love that for sure. So, obviously when you think of all this, so here you are now, you're like, I don't have a bank account in my name. The car's not in my name. I don't have a job. Like, what did you start to do? Like, you go, oh, I just put it, like, I think sometimes when we talk about manifestation, and I know you're the master of vision boards, and we'll get into all that stuff, but like when people think manifestation, oh, you sit around and you think about it and all of a sudden it happens. No, it doesn't work that way. So let's talk about that journey a little bit, about how, I'm going to set an intention with everything that I'm doing. So how did that all even begin?
Yeah, so it began by putting my life on Craigslist. And I literally, the next couple days just got up and was like, everything we own has to go, because I didn't have $5 to my name, and that's no lie. Like, I was taking cans back to get formula for the girls. So, the dining room table that I had saved and wanted for years, and clearanced out on Craigslist. And I remember this guy showing up from Craigslist, and he was getting our wine rack, and it was something that we had, as a couple, we loved wine, and we collected all this wine over time. And I was so proud to have a real wine rack, and I remember him showing up, and I was selling it for like 5% of what it was worth or something. And this guy's like so excited. And I ran after him with all my crystal glasses. And I was like, by the way, do you want these too? I just remember his face being like, what? Like, and I was like, take it, take everything. You know what I mean? And from that is the little bit that I was able to just, get an apartment and start getting started on my own. But I didn't get a job for about 3 months. And so it was rough. I was, on food stamps. I was on public, support. And it was terrifying. Yeah. It was really terrifying because, no matter what we had gone through before in financial stuff, you always have a partner who, one of you can get an extra job or whatever. But when you have babies, you can't. Someone has to watch them. Yeah. And so it was just, it was a lot of figuring out, how the hell do I do this? Yeah,
I mean, a lot of that is swallowing your pride, right?
Oh yeah.
Getting rid of everything, whether it's by choice or oh, hey, I can't pay a bill. Like I think about my mom and some of the stuff she went through, and her choices and not being able to keep jobs. Like, I've seen cars be repossessed. I've seen her have appraisers come in and look at like the antique furniture, and I'm like, well, that's going to go next. And and I've seen all that just to pay a bill and just to kind of make ends meet. But the biggest difference between your story and what my mom went through was a mindset of it will get better, right? Because we talk about that rock bottom, and that's actually a lot of where this show came from. We talk about the rock bottom and saying, hey, there is still tomorrow. There's still hope, and there's still this whole idea, right? And so here you are, you start to get a job 3 months in, but that's not what you want, right? So you start to manifest this life of your dreams. And when you talk about your Pinterest, reality versus what's on your vision board, let's talk about that, because, that's really what you've become the master of, because you have all of these examples of like, this is how I made things happen. When did that begin? Where'd the vision board idea come from, and where'd you go from there?
Yeah. So real quick, I just want to say the beautiful thing about hitting rock bottom is that you don't give a fuck anymore, right? Like, it is the first time, it is the most freeing thing, honestly, because like, you don't care about your pride, you don't care about your ego, you are literally trying to survive. And that for me was huge. I think that allowed me to be able to recreate my life and to start dreaming again, because I did not care what anyone's opinion was. I was like, I'm just trying to literally live and feed my kids. So if you have something to say, tell someone else, and that's so freeing. And I never had that before. So there's a lot of good things for any of your listeners who have been through rock bottom, or God forbid, are there. Hold on to the hope, because honestly, you're being given a gift, and, it's just, it now means you have a clean slate. And that's kind of the idea that, started to percolate with, if you will, in those first weeks and months, was just this idea of, since I have to rebuild, why can't I rebuild something totally different? And why can't it be whatever I wanted it to be? And, having been in a relationship since I was 16, I didn't even know what that was, right? I had no idea what I wanted. And so I invented it, like, swear to God, invented it from out of thin air. I was like, what kind of woman do I want to be? Oh, what kind of mom do I want to be? Oh, what do I look like when I'm successful? What kind of car do I drive when I'm successful? Where am I going to vacation with my kids? And just invented it. And then I found pictures or images that represent kind of everything that I was inventing. And I just plastered my cube at work with them. And I was like, this is what I'm working for. Not just this paycheck. I'm working to be able to vacation with my kids. I'm working to be able to one day go to Venice with, my kids and have this type of life. And, maybe one day I could even fly on a private jet or, take my kid to a ball game. And so all of that gave me so much hope that it let me transport out of what I was going through in the current reality and focus on the future. And that right there is the key. No matter who you are, what you're going through, if you can get out of your mental, just focusing on now, stop focusing on right now, stop focusing on the current situation, and definitely stop focusing on the past, because that's not going to be any fucking good. So take all of that energy and shove it into the future and what you want to create, and it'll be like, boom, and that vision starts to come to life.
Yeah, and so, when I think of this, right, and so, like, what if somebody's listening and they go, I feel like there's no hope. When I sit here and I dream of these things, that's all they really are to me. They feel so out of reach. I don't think that's a reality. And a lot of times when people dream in the wrong way, it becomes depressing for them.
Right, sure. And demotivating.
Yeah.
It can be very demotivating. So as we know, everything is perspective, right? So I always flip that on its head. And when someone tells me, oh, I just did my vision board and now I think, well, what if this doesn't happen? I'm like, are you crazy? What if it did? Oh my God, if there's a 1% chance that one thing on your board shows up, how much better off are you going to be before you did it? Right?
Yeah.
So it's all in how you look at it. And that's for me been how I've now manifested 5 boards. I manifested over half of 2018's board 6 months into the year. So I mean, it just comes to life like sci-fi style. It's crazy. But how I always approach it is like, if there is literally a 1% chance that I can live this type of life, which is so far removed from, where I'm at right now, because I'm always constantly pushing my dreams to the most maximum level, why wouldn't I be all in for that? Like, hello, so I think if people can just look at it in that way, then the rest of it can start to work its magic. Then you can start to change your thinking, which is a huge piece of it. Start to change how you talk, start to change the circle that you're around. And of course, start to freaking do something about changing your life. Start to put in some hustle. Get some work on it. And
that's huge, because once you get that little taste, like once you get that, and you can tell by how you talk about it, like what if you can just get 1%? Because if they get that 1%, they're like, oh, damn, I can do anything. It's a complete mindset shift.
And I'm telling you, like what I coach people to build their boards around, these boards are not even dreams that were probably ever in their consciousness before then. I mean, they're that big, right? Yeah. So my board looks like I'm a Kardashian, right? I'm a Kardashian. So I'm looking at that thinking, oh my God, if there's, the smallest possibility that I could step into that moment in real life, that is insane. That's what 99% of the planet can't do. So I'm down for that. You know what I mean? And what are the chances that would happen if I didn't do this? There's 0. So hey, 1% is better than 0.
Which is huge.
And so that's what I tell people. Like, stop focusing on the negative. Stop focusing on what you can't control and start doing things you can control.
Yeah. And when you focus on the positive, like everything just becomes better. Even if you're not even living that vision board yet, like everything just becomes better. Like people are like, you're happy all the time. How are you happy all the time? And I'm like, because I'm not focused on the dumb shit that's happening around me. Like it's just the good stuff. Like my life is freaking cool. Like we talked about some of the things that I've manifested. That makes my life freaking cool. You know what I mean? And so like to me, like you have to focus on that stuff 100%. But let's dive deep really quick, right? So you go, I've already manifested manifested half of my vision board for this year. So let's take an example and teach people how this can happen, because it's not just, I cut out this picture of Kim Kardashian and I put it on a board.
Right.
Like, it's reality. So can we do an example of like an actual thing that happened?
Oh my gosh, I have so many. So I'll give you one from this year, and then I'll give you, one from previous. Well, I'll start with previous because it's one of my favorites. So, you're from Philly, yeah? Yeah,
Philly area, yeah.
Okay. So you might know the Eagles, Philadelphia Eagles, the NFL team, right?
Not just an NFL team, Super Bowl champions.
The Super Bowl champions, right? Okay. So this story was when my son was 8. He's 15 now, so I don't know, do the math. So a while back, and Kenyon Barner, who just won a Super Bowl with your Eagles, at that time was playing for the Oregon Ducks. And I'm based in Portland, Oregon, and my son and I are huge Duck fans. And I was really broke at this point in my life, and I didn't have enough money to throw my son an 8th birthday party. So he was 8. And I remember just thinking outside the box, like, what can I do to do something memorable that this kid is never going to forget? Because I don't want to just buy him a random present, right? And of course, we had Duck stuff everywhere. We had it on, not just on our boards, but it's everywhere. It's on my car or whatever. And so I get on Facebook and I literally cold called. I was in corporate sales, so we call it cold calling, right? Yep. So I cold called Kenyon Barner on Facebook and I said, hey, I have this crazy idea. If I drive 2 hours to Eugene, is there any chance for my kid's birthday that we can go to a park and you can just throw the ball with him for an hour? It makes me want to cry. Yeah. And he responded right away and he said, of course. And I just remember thinking, like, what? Totally wasn't expecting that. So my son and I drive down there, and not only were we at a park, but we were at one of the Oregon fields, and it was at night and all the lights were on, and it was Ed Dixon, who played for them as well and also won a Super Bowl, and Kenyon Barner, and for about 2.5 hours.
Wow.
He played catch with my son.
Amazing.
And that's when I realized that everything that I was going to build was going to be around moments and experiences that were literally once in a lifetime. Mm-hmm. I was going to build a kind of life that, like, you couldn't even put a price tag on it if you wanted to. And remember, I was coming from a very broke place, and I had been poor my whole life. So I was really trying to find ways to bring the magic of manifestation into my life, where in my mind it didn't correlate with money, right? Because I was in a place I could barely afford the gas to get down there, right? So once I started getting a taste of the fact that, like, you can live this amazing life, a life that, like, people can't even hook up for you,
Yeah.
And then that turned into one of the most iconic stories in my book, Hustle, Believe, Receive, which, is probably one of the biggest manifestations I've ever manifested. And that was going to a Ravens game and, my son and I getting sideline passes. And so we've had so many incredible, literally like bucket list type moments that we've lived out. And that is what I focus on. That's what I teach people to focus on when they're building their boards. And it's not about the money. It's not about like a Lambo on my board. It's about, how do I create a life that every day I'm like, oh my God, how is this going to be? And Kenyon wound up being a very close friend. He's one of my dearest friends to this day. He's a huge inspiration behind the book. His personal story is in the book. It's a story that he hasn't shared with anybody else. So if you are an Eagles fan, you'll love it. But, and that's really from him is where I learned about mindset, because I knew nothing of self-help back then. And he just had this amazing mindset. I was like, how do you stay positive? Like, how do you still believe you're going to make an NFL team when you're injured? And when he was dropped many times on NFL teams before he wound up winning a Super Bowl and getting a contract. And every time I'd be like, how are you not spiraling? How are you not spiraling? He was like, how could I spiral? I'm so grateful to even have this, chance and whatever. And so I just surrounded myself with people who I could brain drain them. I was like, show me what you're doing. Tell me. And then here's the key. I did it. I implemented. Yeah. And what I was learning from him was what he did on a field. But I thought, if he could do it on a field, why can't I do it in the corporate world? Why can't I do it in my dream to write a book? Why can't I do it in being the best mom I can be? And that was just magic.
You said so much there that I wish I could, like, just in in a good way, like in that story, like it's everything from like gratitude is everything, right? Mm-hmm. Be grateful for every single moment and you'll live in joy always. Like that's just reality. That's number one. Number two, surround yourself with the right people that are able to take you to that next level. And number three, actually do the work, right? Yes. So like there's something, so I'm planning a live event called Growth Now Movement Live, and that's May of next year here in Reading. And my big thing is like there's a lot of people who are self-help junkies. So they go from event to event to event. They don't ever change. They're just there for the high of it, right? And so what I'm doing is I'm setting up this event to be no more of that. Like yes, the event's important, right? So the speakers are one thing. But then I'm putting in the room 20 people that I'm calling my movement makers. And these are people that have been on my show, who have done it, who are doing incredible things, but are also willing to help. So they're in the room and they're there for you to actually connect with and continue this after this event, right? Like you said, like I surrounded myself with the right people, but then I drained them of their information.
And you did something about it.
Exactly. And so that's the key. So I love everything that you said there, right? So I'm sure with this whole manifestation, you're able to manifest relationships with the right people. You're able to manifest what you're doing now, which is you're about to go on this nationwide tour of teaching people how to really utilize this. And we'll get into that too and all the details of that, because, you know, if you're listening in Philly or wherever, you said you're starting in LA and I know you're coming to Philly, which I'll be there. Right. So like you did all these things. And now you're traveling the country teaching people how to do it, which I think is incredible, right? And so let's talk about manifesting relationships, because I'm a big believer in the strength of relationships really creating, you know, what it is you're doing. Like I wouldn't be able to do this live event if I didn't create relationships beyond just a podcast interview. There's so many podcasters who do the 30-minute call and that's it and they're out, right? So how did you start to utilize that to reach your dreams, like utilizing relationships?
It is everything. I first realized the power of relationships when I was in corporate sales, and I didn't think that I was a great closer at sales. I was selling very, very intense technology sales, right? So I always knew that I didn't know that much about it, and I always felt, you know, and incapable. And I know a lot of your listeners can relate to this, in whatever dream they are, they feel like they need to know everything first to be good at it. And I knew that wasn't going to be the case. I mean, I just was not a rocket scientist. It wasn't going to happen. Yeah. But what I was good at, and what I did recognize, is I could sit down with a total stranger at coffee or at lunch, and by the end of that, I would know their kids' names. I would know what schools they went to. I would know, you know, what their dreams were. And I was like, there's something there. And then I would take action, right? And I would follow up with them and I would build a relationship. And when I was very first starting out and had nothing, I literally had to just do a clearing house. I was like, because there was no one in my life who was positive or could kind of see my vision. And so I made a conscious decision to shut down the outside world almost. And I was like, I'm going to go to my blog, I'm going to go in my brain, and I'm going to be a mom. And that's it. And then when I started noticing what successful people around me were doing, that's when I was like, okay, I want to build quality relationships. And so I really started paying attention to anybody I admired, whether they had their own business or whether they were a CEO or whether they were an athlete or whatever, and started like honing those different tools that they were doing and putting it into my life. And then when it came time to write the book, Hustle, Believe, Receive, it actually has 51 stories of the people who inspired me, of real people who do this 8-step method that I teach. And it was crazy because I remember when I had the idea, I was like, who could I ask to share their story? And then I started going through my phone. I was like, oh my God, literally everyone I know inspires me. Everyone I know is someone I want to be like. And not in like an emulative way, but in a way of like, I want to be in that room. You know what I mean? Like, yes. I want to be in that. And back in the day, I thought I just want to be a fly in that room, you know? And the crazy thing is that real recognizes real, right? And so the way that I approached it was always just myself and being real and making real connections with people. And so people who don't make those type of connections with anyone were willing to make them with me because I was vulnerable and I was real and I was earnest. And they are still to this day people who are massively important in my life. And I continue to bring new ones in, you know what I mean? So I can't even begin to stress enough how important, I call it change your crew. I mean, your crew is everything.
Yeah.
In a good way or a bad way.
Yeah.
Everything. And a lot of people that I do coach don't have that, which is totally fine. I think nowadays it's hard to find people that are like-minded or people that you look up to. But you know what? If you put it out into the universe that you need that and you recognize that that is something that your life is missing, the universe is going to bring those people to your life. And, you know, I was on the Ed Milet show. I know you mentioned him a little bit earlier, and that's exactly what happened to me, you know. Brought someone amazing into my life right at the time that I needed it to help take me to the next level. And the universe is always going to do that for you. It's always going to bring you what you need, but it's up to us to then cultivate the relationship, right? Which is what you're doing and what I've done. And it's the reason I'm here. Yeah. Plain and simple.
Yeah. I you know, it's funny that you said, you know, I just want to be in that room. Like I want to emulate them to be a part of what they're doing, right? It wasn't a fanboy or fangirl thing.
Oh, no.
Which that,
I
by the way,
I want that knowledge.
Yeah, exactly. And so I say this all the time. So in 2017, I set a goal where I said, I want to feel like I belong at the table.
Yes.
Meaning I belong at the table with these people I'm interviewing.
Get it.
And so by the end of 2017, I got ranked by Inc. magazine as a top 8 podcast to follow with guys like Lewis Howes and John Lee Dumas and Andy Frisella. Like I'm on this list with these people that I have admired from afar, and I've known Lewis for a long time. And then 2018, I said, I want to be at the table. And so in 2018 already, I mean, you know, actually it was like 3 months in, like they started to reach out to me for advice. They started to,
crazy.
I started to attend VIP parties where I'm at the same table as them. And like, I won't say who, but I just beat out one of them as like a keynote speaker at an event. And like, so it becomes this whole entire thing of like, you need to learn how to set your own intention. And your intention setting and my intention setting are very similar. Like, right. I want to feel like I belong there. I want to belong there. I want to be a peer. It might be something different for somebody else, but I think, and I imagine you might feel the same way, is like you have to do what feels right for you, right?
And here's the bottom line. You become what you think about. Period. Like that's just a known fact, right? So if what you're surrounding yourself with and what you're thinking about all the time, what your brain is obsessing about, is who you genuinely become. Not who you fake become, but who you genuinely do become and who you genuinely believe you are, right? So it starts out, I call it, fake it till you make it in the beginning, because in the beginning, I knew I didn't belong, right? Like I was not on that level. I was not on that caliber, but I also wasn't trying to fake it that I was. Like I wasn't trying to tell people I was when I wasn't. But I was putting myself in the space, right? Putting myself in the space around people that I admired and open enough to learn. And I think that's a huge piece of it. Huge piece of it is be willing to put yourself out there. I think a lot of people are very scared. If you have a 20-minute coffee with a CEO, most people are going to clam up. They're going to be terrified, especially if that's someone you're supposed to be selling to. You're not going to want to ask them personal questions. You're not going to want to get to know them or whatever. And I was like, no, I got to diffuse it. I got to put them on my level. And that's huge, because I knew I was never going to be at their level. I can't have a conversation with the CEO and know what the fuck he's talking about half the time. But we're human, and we have human experiences that are in common. And it's my job to find out what those are and to create some type of level playing field. And I was the same way. I remember always feeling like the assistant or the person who was like meekly on the side, just lucky to be in a room like that. And then I did a big keynote where I opened actually for Ed last month. And it was really kind of like the first time where I was like, why are people waiting to see me outside the VIP room? Like, this is crazy, this is crazy. So it really does. And that was like that moment where I'm like, oh, the transformation and the transition has happened, is whatever. And so it will be like that for no matter what it is that your listeners are wanting to be or what their dreams are. That transition is going to take place, but you have to focus on it, right? And you have to set your intention and then take actions regardless of fear, because it's always going to come up and try and cock block you. Yeah. So you got to go in for it,
Yeah, and I look at it like, I always fast forward. I always fast forward a situation, and I go, what will be worse? Will the fear of rejection will being rejected be worse, or will the fact that I would look back and went, I didn't even try, be worse? And because one of the greatest exercises ever in my young life, I was 19 years old and I was in direct sales, and I had this manager who was obviously trying to motivate me to sell, and I was scared to get on the phone and set appointments and all that stuff. And I sat in the meeting with him and I started talking about this stuff, and he yelled the word no at me. He just goes, no. I'm like, what the hell is that? And he goes, no. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he's like, are you still alive?
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. Yep. And he goes, who cares if somebody says no? And it's created this whole entire thing of like, every conversation I have in my life, whether it's with, the whole corny analogy of like I treat the janitor like I treat the CEO.
Yeah.
But let's humanize that, and you go, I want to have that human conversation with every single person, and now we're on that level. Like, dude, let's be honest. Like, I talk to people on a regular basis that where I am in my life versus where they are in their life, it shouldn't be an even playing field, but I've humanized the conversation. Yeah. And all of a sudden we're in a whole nother ballgame, and I'm learning and I'm leveling myself up, and it's because I wasn't afraid to ask.
Right. Completely. And I think there's another piece of it that probably you and I maybe innately understand that a lot of people are really scared of, and that is you have to treat them as if they were you or, the next person in line at the barista counter. Because when you treat them like a regular human being and not like a god, or like they're on a different level than you, or like you're so lucky to be like in their presence or any of that, that's how 99.9% of interactions they have are. So if you are the one person who's real and treating them in a real way as you would any of your other friends or other people in your life, they're going to remember you. It's going to stick out in their mind, and that's when you're going to get the good stuff, right? That's when they are going to open up and share the knowledge that they've learned to get to where they are, and also ask them. Like, nobody asked them. Everyone is too afraid to ask them. And so what I found when I did the interviews for the book is that people, no matter what their celebrity status was or wasn't, they were just so excited to talk about how their journey started and what their hustle was, and what their obstacles were and what their mindset was and how they've gotten through it, because no one's ever asked them. Everyone asked them about the shiny stuff, about winning the Super Bowl, about whatever. And so no one was asking them what it was like at 5 a.m. every day of their life since they were 16 years old. Yeah. And that's what I wanted to know. I was like, Super Bowl's cool. Yeah, whatever. Let's talk about this. Yeah. And then all of a sudden, so be you, number one. For any of your listeners who are trying to figure out how to kind of get this started and build those types of relationships, but also don't put them on a pedestal, because at the end of the day, we're all human.
Yeah, 100%. And actually, it's funny that we're talking about this and organically got to this point of the conversation, because I had the same, like a similar, not the same one, but a similar conversation with Ed. And he's like, dude, like people like Grant Cardone and Andy Frisella, like they want to be loved like everybody else. Yep. Like, the reason I'm friends with them is because I look at them like we're on the same level, and I go, love you, brother. Like, that's how I end conversations. They need to be loved just like everybody else, but we don't think that. We think, oh, they have all this stuff. They have the money. They have the perfect life. And I put up air quotes, by the way, if you're listening.
Yeah.
And so I think that's so spot on. So spot on. And here you are. You're somebody who hit your rock bottom, and you said, I don't want to end here. And you've literally culminated this life through vision boards and visualization and then action and everything else, right? Yeah. So if you were to say, what are the first three things somebody can do to start to live the life of their dreams, what would you recommend the first three things?
I think the very first thing, because nothing is going to matter until you do this, the first thing is you have to identify what you want. And that sounds easy. It sounds cliche. It sounds whatever. It is not easy. And I can promise you that everyone I coach can't truly, genuinely answer that question when we start. Like, there's no way. They have something canned off the top of the head that's like, oh, well, I want to make $1 million, or I want, and I'm like, and who cares? Like, what does $1 million look like in your life? How does your life change? Where do you live? Like, who are your friends then? What do you do on a daily basis then? How are you better? How are you a better person? How does the quality of your life change? And no one can answer any of that because they haven't taken the time to know what it is they want. And so as we've seen happen many times, people can win the lottery and have all the millions, and what happens? Like either the life looks exactly the same after, or it implodes. So that's because money is not the answer to anything. You have to really determine what type of woman or man you want to become and what that life is going to look like, and from a full life perspective. So that's the very first thing. And I push my clients to focus on what experiences they want to live out in their lifetime. And I have homework in the book. After each step, there's homework. And you were talking about it earlier about, doing the work and how you're putting this event together that is all about doing the work. I am so the same way. Literally, people will message me or tag me in a picture of them reading the book. And the first question that comes out of my mouth is, "That's awesome. Have you done the work? That's awesome. Have you done the homework? Have you done the homework? For Christ's sake, have you done the homework?" Like, the homework is not in there for you to skip over. Like, if you read the book, it's going to go in one ear and out the other. Like, nothing is going to matter. Your life isn't going to change at all. But if you actually do the work and take the time to find out what you want and respond to that and figure it out, your life is going to be just catapulted, right? So that's the first thing that I have people do. And the exercise that I have them walk through is come up with 25 once in a lifetime moments they want to live. And it's much harder than it sounds.
Yeah, you said that. I was like, holy shit, that's a lot of once in a lifetime moments.
It is. And I'm talking big time. I'm talking the ones that literally you wouldn't do again. They're that big. They're that huge. Most people can come up with 5. So if I'm asking you for 25, by the time you've got there, you've gone through all your blocks. You already know what your blocks are to manifest. You already know what your blocks are. It's either money or it's doubt or it's whatever. They're all rising to the top. And so then it's beautiful, because then we know what to work on, right? And we know what to remove and how to get you where you want to be. And also, when you're starting building something from scratch, building it in that way, that I want it to be huge and good because that aligns with my joy and that aligns with what makes me the happiest person on the planet. And if I can live this life, then I'm doing better than 99% of the people on the planet. So why not? So that's the first. And there are 8 very concrete steps that I have people walk through. The vision board is 5. So I actually don't even have them start with that. We have to do a lot of groundwork before we get there in order to make a board that's going to work. And so identifying that is clearly huge, but then thinking it is huge too. Mm-hmm. Like, what's going on in your brain? Because if you don't address that, then you're sabotaging everything you're trying to do.
Yeah.
So it's like you're having a fist fight with yourself all day long. You're not going to go anywhere. So that's a big one. And not just talking about, okay, be positive or change your thoughts, but actually showing you ways to do it that are simple, quick, and easy. And anyone can do. Like my freaking kids do. So it's not rocket science.
I love all of that. So now you're taking this on the road and you're teaching people how to do it across the country. What's that look like for you, and how can somebody like me get in the room?
Yeah, absolutely. So this is the first time I've ever done anything like this. And for years and years and years, people have been like, "Can you come to my city?" And so I'm really excited to finally be able to get out and teach people how to build the boards that I build. They're different than any other vision board on the planet. That's why they work so well. And give them kind of the framework around it as well. So I have a workbook and a journal that they get when they buy a ticket, because I'm a huge believer again in doing the work. So I'm like, you have all the tools. I don't want to hear a damn excuse out of you. Like, you got it all, right?
Yeah, that's awesome.
So I'm not like building on this whole thing that they have to buy in order to get what they want. I'm like, here's your package with your ticket. Let's go. Let's get this thing knocked out of the park. So yes, I have 15 cities coming up in the next 3 months, crisscrossing the country. And if you go to my website, sarahcentrella.com, it's under the events page. All the info and tickets and everything are there. And they're very small. I'm maxing them at 50 people.
That's awesome.
I want it to be, that's 3 hours of time with people in your community and me. We're all going to get to know each other nice and well in our little 3 hours. And that's the other thing I'm trying to do, is curate these relationships. So I want people to meet someone in their own town, in their own community, who thinks like this, who now is following, the method and doing the board and all this stuff, so that hopefully they will have this, that kind of added support, and they can grow and build their own mentorships and stuff. So
that's cool.
That's kind of the dream behind it.
Yeah, that's incredible. So we'll link that all up in the show notes and everything like that. And, we talk about relationship building and having the right conversations. And the neat part about this podcast is I get to have amazing conversations with successful people, however you want to define success. So my question for you is, what's your definition of success? And what are 3 things you do every single day to ensure that success?
That's such a good point, because success is so different to everybody, right? And if you're ever comparing yourself to anybody, then you don't know what success means for you.
Yeah.
So from my own personal, journey and dreams and whatever, for me, success is being able to reach people around the world, show them these tools. They're so simple that it just breaks my heart that everyone doesn't know them, and just watch people's lives change, honest to God. And it sounds corny, but that, every time I get a message or a DM and someone's like, I just manifested my first thing, or, my life is changing, I'm doing it and it's working. I'm just like, oh my God, that's why I killed myself for a year to write this book, and why I starved, and why, it's worth it. It's all worth it. So to me, that is success. Obviously, I have many, many goals that are specifically defined around that. But I think the underlying kind of universal definition of success for anybody is somebody who is doing what they want. You can be doing what you want and still be on food stamps, but you're doing it, right? You got a plan. You're not going to be on it. You can be doing what you want. You could be a multi-billionaire. Whoever, whatever the dream is and whoever you are, if you are taking action every single day to better your life and to improve and to get where you want to go, whether you're there or not, you are successful.
I love that. So what are 3 things you're doing every day in your life right now to ensure that success for yourself?
The thoughts, man. Everything comes down to thoughts. And, there's a small percentage of people on this planet who are just gifted and amazingly blessed because they're naturally optimistic and positive. I was not one of those humans created that way. So for me, the tools that I've learned to change my story, to change my thinking on a daily basis, on a long-term basis, are what saves me all the time. There's always sabotaging thoughts that want to come in and say, oh, but you're not that good, or, oh, you got 4 declines, on your next book this week. That must mean something, they're always there. They're always just knocking on the door, just waiting to come in and destroy everything you fucking worked your ass off for. And so I'm constantly on that war. Nope, you're not going to get me this time. Not today. So that is huge. And if I didn't know those skills, and if I wasn't practicing it on a daily basis, I would not be here. There would be no success, because, I think a lot of people, if we don't know how to not listen to them, that's all we do is listen to them. So that's huge. And then every single day I'm doing something that gets me closer to my dream, whether it's planning out the tour, whether it's working on the next book, whether it's writing a blog post, whether it's just researching on Instagram. It doesn't have to be earth-shattering work that every single day, but every day I'm in that lane. You know what I mean? I'm doing something that reminds me why I'm here, what I'm doing, where I'm going. And I think that's huge. And then the other thing is really having good people in your life and being able to check out sometimes and refresh, finding whatever your joy source is that maybe has nothing to do with everything else, and making that a priority in your life. And for me, it's photography and travel. So if I'm feeling worn down or feeling in my funk or whatever, I know I can even just go downtown with my camera and I'm going to feel better. And if I travel, of course, I'm going to feel better.
Of course.
I have Paris coming up for Christmas. I can't wait.
That's amazing. That's going to be, so after your long tour.
Yeah, that's my
Yeah, that'd be cool. That'd be really, really cool. So first of all, there was so much wisdom and knowledge. You should go back and listen to this episode again, because there's just so much that came out of you that can literally change somebody's life. And that's obviously incredible. But I wrap up all of these episodes with 5 rapid fire questions. Before we get there, is there anything else you want to add?
No, I've had such a great chat with you today, Justin. I'm so excited that we even had this opportunity, and I love meeting like-minded people. It's the best hour I can have in a day.
For sure. Like when you were talking, I was like, oh my God, this is the way that I think. Like this is incredible.
Right?
Like these are things that I've been talking about.
Other people that are like, oh my God, you're doing the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not crazy.
Yeah, I'm not crazy. Thank God.
Right?
So we'll get into the 5 rapid fire questions. Some are fun, some are serious, but I ask you this. Answer within one word or at the most one sentence. Are you ready?
Ooh, okay.
All right, so the first one is, what's the number one trait you look for in a friend or the people you allow in your circle?
Are they moving towards their dreams? Do they know what their dreams are?
Awesome. That's actually my number 2 one. My first one's selflessness, and that's number 2. They have to be moving forward. So
yeah.
I love that. What is your favorite smell?
This is super tragic. So like 6 months ago, I totally lost my sense of smell. Like I had a bad cold and I kept on thinking, like how you lose your sense of smell when you have a bad cold.
Yeah.
And I kept on being, it'll get better. And it has not come back at all. So that is one thing. Talk about things taking for granted or grateful or whatever. I never thought about it before. Literally every single day, I'm like, I wish I could smell that. So now I can tell you 70,000 million because all I think about is what I wish I could smell. One is coffee in the morning. God, I wish I could smell that. I love smelling wine because I love wines. I love like picking all the stuff out of wine. Oh my God, candles. I could go on for a million
feel like a
years.
terrible human being for asking you this question.
No, it's the weirdest thing. I guess it's a very rare side effect that you can have, but no.
Will it ever come back?
I don't know. I've gone in and they said it can or can't. It's just a hit or miss thing. It's a super rare thing. Like, please bring it back.
That's awful.
So yes, no, but I asked the universe finally, like the other day, I was like, okay, I'm done. It's been like 5 months. Can you please bring that back?
Yeah. Manifest that.
Yes, because today, all your listeners, if you have nothing else to be grateful in your life, go around today and just smell everything you can smell and be like, man, I'm better off than Sarah. I can smell.
Yo, even if it's a bad smell, just be grateful you can smell it at this point. Yeah. Yeah, that's crazy. So I apologize for asking that question. Anyway, no. The next one is, if you could have dinner with anybody, living or dead, who would it be?
Oprah.
Nice, yeah.
She's my queen.
She's probably the number. When I don't ask the same rapid fire questions for everybody, but when I ask that one, that's probably the most common answer. Like I think she'd definitely be up there for me.
Oh, she's the reason why I'm here for sure. Because the only thing I ever even had any inkling about anything self-help was just from watching her show back in the day when she had her daily show.
Have you met her yet?
And she was the one who had the vision board show, and so it was like 2 years before my rock bottom, but it stuck in the back of my mind. So, I give her a lot of credit for where I am today. That's because awesome. all those little bombs she was dropping were sticking.
Yeah. Have you met her yet?
I've come so close. I just had an amazing Skype call with Sherry Salata, who is the president of Harpo and OWN and was her executive producer for 25 years on the Oprah show. And we're going to be working together doing some stuff coming up, which is super exciting. So I'm getting inches closer all the time.
Yeah,
it'll happen.
You know it's going to happen. Like
it'll happen.
Yeah, you know that it will. Like that's not even a question. At the end of your life, if you could only be remembered for one sentence, what would that be?
Hustle, believe, receive, baby.
I love it. So obviously this podcast is called The Growth Now Movement. So I wrap up every single episode with this one question, and that is, in your life, what has been your biggest moment of growth?
Oh, God. I've had so many. I truly think the first 6 months after my rock bottom, for sure, because that's when I became a different human being or saw the potential that I could be a different human being. And I think that's an amazing gift. Most of us don't think about that or don't realize that we have an opportunity to just start completely from scratch with a blank canvas and be anybody we want to be. And it sounds so esoteric, but strip it down and you're like, holy shit, that's heavy, right? Yeah. And so I'm so grateful. And I'm constantly trying to keep doing that and keep pushing the envelope of it.
Awesome. I love that. And it's so true. Like, and the way to break that down too is like, look at who you are today. You've created that. So why can't you create what it is you actually want? And I think that that's so true. Just thank you so much, Sarah, for coming on, sharing your story and changing the world legitimately with everything that you're doing. Just thank you so much. Thank you so much for this opportunity. It's been an amazing, amazing hour. I'm so grateful. Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you guys so much for being a part of the Growth Now movement. This is how you can really help me out. If you guys enjoyed this episode, please share it out on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all that fun stuff. And let's grow this movement to epic heights. And it's all going to be because of you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next week.